Howdy there folks, it's Geist with another Destiny 2 video. This time we're going to be discussing some of the major changes incoming to Stasis. Bungie's essentially nerfing it in the ground. And it's also kind of a two-part video because in the second half of this I'm also going to discuss some future goings-on with the channel, what I have planned for the future, and a couple of milestones I'd like to reach, so make sure you stay tuned for the end there. Okay, so jumping right into the TWAB and the general stasis changes, starting first. For all stasis freezes now, we have a reduced duration of all non-super freezes versus players to 1.35 seconds. This freeze is too short to break out of, so breaking out is now only possible when frozen by a super. Reduce special weapon, heavy weapon, and light ability bonus damage versus frozen players from 50% to 5%. Stasis Slow no longer reduces weapon accuracy, increases weapon flinch when under fire, no longer suppresses class ability and air moves, for example Icarus Dash, and reduce movement speed penalty while slowed by 20%. These exact changes are something that I and other YouTubers have suggested multiple times. If they're not going to outright remove stasis from PvP, the freeze or all freezes need to just have like a set amount of time, and it doesn't really need to be longer than a second. And the slow really needs to only slow you. It doesn't need to remove abilities, it doesn't need to reduce accuracy, all the other negative things that it does. So now that's exactly what we've got. All freezes are going to last for about a second. There's no option to break out of them, which is good because you're just going to instantly melt out of them, similar to as you do with like cold snap grenades. And all slows are just going to reduce your movement speed by a little bit. They're not going to negatively impact you in any other ways other than a little bit of extra flinch. This is absolutely amazing and is by far going to be the most noticeable change to stasis. Hopefully going to make it a lot less of a headache. The Whisper of Hedron's fragment will no longer increase weapon damage after freezing. It will now increase stability, weapon aim assist, mobility, resilience, and recovery after freezing. The Whisper of Rhyme fragment no longer provides overshield while in a super, and the Cold Snap grenade. Seeker no longer tracks targets after initial target acquisition, increased arming duration before Seeker spawns, halved the detonation radius versus players, and it now bounces off of walls and detonates on the ground. This is another great change. The cold snaps are definitely one of the most annoying grenades to deal with. I mean, the glacier grenades in the dusk field is not really all that big of a deal. Ever since the dusks got nerfed, you can get out of them pretty easily, and glaciers, it takes at least a little bit of skill to try to get the instant freeze on them. But those easy peasy cold snaps thrown out while rushing around the corner just to get the free shotgun kill, yeah, that hopefully that's going to be a little bit less prevalent. Now for the individual class tuning, starting off with the Behemoth. Shiver Strike, reduce flight speed and distance, reduce knockback versus players, remove slow detonation on player impact. Cryoclasm now requires the Titan to sprint for 1.25 seconds before activation when not in super, however they did remove the cooldown on that. Also, Howl of the Storm, reduced angle of initial freezing damage and cone, reduced crystal creation freezing radius, slowed down sequence of crystal formation to allow victims more opportunity to escape, now spawns a small crystal on walls if performed into walls, and Glacial Quake, reduced heavy slam vertical freeze range versus players, and, the big one, reduced damage resistance from 50% to 47%. Now the two biggest changes to me that I'm looking at here is that decreased durability while in the Titan super. That's going to make them a heck of a lot easier to kill. And then of course all the nerfs to the Titan freeze melee ability. That was incredibly annoying to have Titans just flying around, kind of slightly bumping into you, and you just get hurled off a cliff or into a wall and killed instantly. Plus the tracking on that seemed always kind of ridiculous. So I'm happy to see the nerfs happen to especially the freezy shoulder charge there. And as for the durability on the super, I mean, that's just kind of icing on the cake. It'll make it a little bit easier to take them down. Since that Titan super is pretty mobile, it makes a little bit more sense that it shouldn't be quite as tough as some of the others. And now on to the Hunters. Withering Blade, they're going after that one again. Reduce slow duration versus players from 2.5 seconds to 1 second. Reduce Whispers of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 to 0.5 seconds. Reduce damage versus players from 65 to 45. After one bounce, it is reduced further to 30. Reduce projectile speed by 10%, and reduce tracking after bouncing off of a wall. Winter Shroud, reduce slow duration versus players from 2.5 to 1.5 seconds. Reduce Whisper of Durance slow duration extension versus players from 2 seconds to 5 seconds. And the Touch of Winter, Cold Snap Seeker no longer has increased movement speed or travel distance, and it now spawns a small stasis crystal on detonation. Now, for most of these changes here to the Hunter, I can't really say much. I've honestly never unlocked a single aspect or fragment or any of that mess for stasis. Even though I know it makes some of it more powerful, but in this case my laziness paid off because I knew stasis was just going to keep getting hammered until it got weaker and weaker. Don't make the classes feel like a must pick. If they're far weaker by comparison, then I can happily run my light subclasses and not feel like I'm missing out or just going to get crapped on just because I'm not using that. So I'm totally on board with this. And I don't really care how much they nerf the little shurikens there. Before, I've thrown a couple of them, they ricocheted around the corner and there were a bunch of players standing there. They just bounced around and killed all of them. So they were definitely a little bit broken, so they can nerf them as hard as they want to, as far as I'm concerned. Now for the Warlock. Penumbral Blast, reduce tracking and proximity detonation size and tracking versus players. Reduce freeze radius versus players when impacting the environment from 2.7 meters to 1.5 meters. Seeker now only chains once when spawned from a player's shatter. And freezing projectile tracking strength now ramps down to 0 seconds after 2 seconds of flight. I don't really have much input on these changes as I do not play my Warlock, well, I don't play any other class than the Hunter too much. But in particular, I haven't even unlocked Stasis on my Warlock or my Titan, so I really can't say a lot versus that. The only reason I had more of an opinion on the Titan is because I have to fight them so much. You don't see as many Stasis Warlocks in the Crucible, just because out of the three classes, the Warlock definitely is the weakest. I think initially they had the strongest super, and then over time things have just completely shifted to the other two classes. But even so, I don't really care about any of that. I'm perfectly fine with them just continuing to nerf all stasis. Because honestly, I like a lot of the utility that I've lost from some of my other light subclasses. I really like running top tree tether there, and it'll be nice to not feel like I have to run stasis all the time. So in general, folks, that's pretty much it as far as the stasis changes are concerned. They are some major changes. Bungie is nuking the crap out of stasis. They are reducing its effectiveness across the board in general and specifically to each class. I am perfectly okay with that. I am tired of seeing nothing but stasis. I think we all are. Now, you know, whenever our next subclass comes out, whenever we get our corruption subclass, which we all know is probably going to be the next one, we're probably going to experience something similar all over again. My prediction is that we're just going to have everybody burning to death in the Crucible instead of everybody being frozen. So mark my words, that's probably going to happen when that releases. But who knows? Maybe Bungie will have learned from this. Probably not, but we'll see what happens when that comes out. I think the reason Stasis stayed strong for so long is they wanted to get as many people to try and buy the expansion as possible, sort of creating a pay-to-win scenario. You know, pretty cheesy on their part, but it obviously worked because, you know, you see Stasis used by pretty much everybody in the Crucible. So hopefully my prediction about the corruption subclass won't come true, but well, you know, we'll see. If it happens, I won't say I told you so. Either way, I'm not sad to see Stasis get stomped into the ground, and I think these are wonderful changes, and I can't wait for them to happen. By the way, if you didn't already know, those are going to be rolling out this Thursday, so it's going to be happening pretty soon. Alright, so that wraps up our discussion on the TWAB from last week. Now, if any of you have stuck around, and I hope most of you have, I want to talk about the future of this channel. I've got a couple of milestones that I've kind of set for myself here, and sort of kind of promises for you guys. I know right now there's only a handful of you guys. I'm not really doing these videos for a whole lot of people. About half of you are friends and family anyways, but for those of you that aren't, spread the word. We want to kind of grow this channel a little bit. I do most of this for fun, but nonetheless, it would be kind of fun to try to reach a wider audience, just because I want a little bit more feedback on what I'm doing, kind of see what other people think. How can I improve on things? How can I make things better? How can I make the channel more fun? Because I mean, I have fun making these videos. I have fun editing this. It's just a little hobby of mine, something I kind of do on the side. You know, I love playing games. I love playing Destiny. I've been playing Bungie's games since the first Halo launched. I was 8 years old. I'll let you guys do the math. You can figure out how old I am from there. If we can hit 100 viewers, I'm going to start a new segment on the channel. Once a month, I'm going to pick a viewer, and you know, whoever has the highest rated comment, or whoever happens to have a comment I tend to like the most, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to pick one viewer every month, and I'll play a game with you for an hour here on Destiny. You know, we can do Crucible. If you want some help in a raid, strikes, maybe a mission that you need some help with, something like that, you know, whatever you want it to be. I'm going to stream it, and we're going to play together for an hour, and then I'm going to post it on there, and we're going to call it the Playing with the Viewers segment, or maybe something a little bit more creative once that comes along. That's going to happen at 100 subscribers. At 500 subscribers, I will sing a song for you guys, because I'll be pretty excited by then. And at 1,000 subscribers, I will show my face. We'll do a face reveal. So if you'd like to see all these things happen, guys, you know, tell your friends, try to help me promote the channel. I'd like to see it grow, and if you would, then just give me a hand. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.